Hello, and welcome to COMP3218, the Let's Play for Coursework 1. I'm Adrienne Chapman, a lecturer in the course, and with me today is...
Hi, I'm Callum. I'm one of the demonstrators on the course.
So today we're going to be playing games submitted by students based on a coursework in which we ask them to do a series of things. The first being to create a game that showcases a good core dynamic. We want them to showcase this core dynamic using a good level design that includes a good tutorial, either as a separate tutorial as part of that level design. Shall we look at the first set of games?
Yeah.
All right, and here we have our first game, Armor Blast. Callum, feel free to jump right in.
Yeah, I guess we want to start with the tutorial.
Let's do the tutorial. I noticed some music in the background.
Yes.
Oh.
Okay.
Well, we've got some
Oh, interesting.
just straight up text telling us what to do. WASD and move to the black zones on the map.
I can draw shapes.
All right, and those gray lines aren't any sort of grid that you have to drive on. It's just anywhere on the map. Okay. You're at 100%. I'm not entirely sure what's.
Well. Ooh,
good job.
I'm glad I've been appreciated. Oh, space. Use space to shoot. Okay. I can only shoot so quickly, it seems. Is there a portal over here? Ooh.
Portals.
Is it? What is that?
What's the blue? Did you go on the blue one before?
Yes. Oh no, this is...
Okay, so he can push you, obviously, and you can shoot him. It seemed like the targeting was a little bit strange there, wasn't it? Well, maybe not.
So you can't shoot whenever you hit space. Occasionally it lets you shoot very quickly, but most of the time this is about as quickly as you can shoot.
Okay.
Which makes it a little bit difficult to track objects.
Sure. You're only at 67%. I wonder if that's because that blocks ran into you. There are power-ups, okay.
Oh, right, the little cube. Damn it.
Okay, so you are invisible.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if this helps you or not, but okay.
You can kind of tell where you are because of that trail, but I don't know.
Yeah.
No.
You can do it, Callum. Oh, you got speed. 5 seconds, faster. Okay, so far we're getting all the information in the tutorial, but it's very much tell us what to do. Whoa.
What is?
Airstrike. You get to aim and shoot.
Okay, I didn't actually see the instructions because I was very confused.
Okay.
It also appears to have gone.
Yep.
I don't know if I used that
or if it just was a timer. You're protected for 5 seconds. It looks like all of their power-ups are about 5 seconds. Not quite sure how to do the airstrike. Okay, so you finished the tutorial. Okay. So I will say, initial impressions in the tutorial is they very much told us what to do. You know, we got to exercise our skills, but there were no reasons to exercise our skills beyond we couldn't progress until we did it a few times. Okay.
Yeah.
And, the information was just displayed.
There's not There's also some stuff that wasn't really explained, like what exactly the percentage next to the player was and why it went down. You can make some guesses, but I'm not certain because I'm fairly sure the first time I ran into one of those yellow boxes it didn't do anything, so... Anyway. I have a feeling now that this group said that this game was meant to be 2-player, so that
yes,
should be
I
interesting.
remember this in the feedback sessions. It was to be 2-player.
Oh no. How do I control the other one? Okay.
Well, let's.
There we go. It's the arrow keys. Oh my god,
Okay.
this is.
So you're
Wait,
playing
it's
as
space
2
to
people.
shoot. How do I shoot with the other one? Oh, I've changed window. Okay, it's enter for the other one.
Go get a roommate.
Aha. Oh, this is. Oh, that's. Granted, this is probably more confusing than. Okay, I've got the airstrike back. Can I? Oh. I won, I think.
You won.
I also lost though, so.
Okay, so it's a little bit harder at this point because you are a single person playing on a game. But
I think I won.
why don't we try again and maybe ignore the left hand and just explore the world in your right hand. And so your idea here is that you're just trying to kill your other person?
Yes. What if I hit myself with the airstrike? It doesn't do anything. Okay, that makes sense, I guess. No. Oh wow. Yeah, so when you get them down to 0, it drops you back to the main menu, which is, I guess, means you won, but it is a little bit jarring. And also the airstrike appears to kill the other player instantly, which is and I guess it's quite hard to aim. If the other player is actually moving, you're probably going to struggle to hit them.
Yeah.
So let's see if I can get the airstrike and then try to move both of them at once. No, come on. Right, I'll tell you what, I'll get you over here. Ready for moving. Oh my god. Oh, that's an interesting question. So if we... Oh.
Have you just gotten all of the cubes and nothing's happened here to you?
I think I just keep getting the speed power up.
Now you're invisible.
Oh, I'm over there. Okay. Nope. I'd like the airstrike, please. Oh, the speed power-up stack. That's interesting.
So you can get faster and faster and faster.
Yes. Where am I? There I am. Aha! I got the airstrike. Okay. So if we try and nope. Okay, it is actually quite hard to hit a moving target with that, which I guess is good. Oh no. I have escaped.
All right. I think while you keep exploring the world that you are in and what you can do with it, I'm going to start working through the marks criteria. So the first collection of marks is all around quality, and so we break this out first into presentation. So what we're looking for in presentation is information design, graphics, and audio. So I mean, easily enough, I can hear music. Are there effect noises that I can't hear, like when you do a pickup or when you shoot something, or is it just the background music?
There is a gunshot sound, and when you go through the teleporter things, it makes a zap.
Okay, so we've got kind of audio effects and music. Very nice. And then looking at the graphics themselves, it's looking like the graphics are consistent. The shapes kind of all fit together, and we're not choosing from different asset packs. There is a question around key information shown. So we have a player 100% and player 200%. Whoa, you are off the map. Did you just jump the shark there?
It turns out if you get the speed power up, you can run through walls.
Right. I'm not entirely sure that's a feature.
No. I remember them. I remember in one of their labs they were having issues trying to fix that.
Right. So information design wise, we're going to go back to that. I love that there's like that information design, like the portals is a wonderful one. So they're kind of exuding these dots that kind of make it clear that there's something over there. The information about your health is there, but I'm not a big fan about how it, well, I suppose it has to because your view of the world changes, but I would have preferred it not quite tracking over the map the way it currently does when you are in the map. What happens now if you leave that car alone on the outside of the walls and you play the other car?
It's turn invisible apparently.
Right, yeah, you hit that pickup.
Oh, there we go. Let's try and get into that. I will say the controls are not as difficult to use as I'm making it look.
Oh, good. I was actually I was wondering about that.
I think.
Okay, so information design in this case, I think that there's audio music, which is good. Actually, they are complementary and consistent up there, so I think we're actually. Yeah, I think they're good. I'm not entirely sure how appealing they are, but they're pretty good. And I think so what else do we want to know? So we want to know the health of the other team, which absolutely that's key information. We want to know where we are on the map, so even when we're invisible, you've got that slipstream. I think it does show all key information.
Interesting.
I'm not sure that anything is missing. So to me, this is very clearly falling smack into the good category.
One thing that I don't remember seeing this in their earlier builds. This little wispy trail that follows you around. Yep. I'm guessing they added that so you could tell where you are when you're invisible, which is a nice touch. Obviously, because of the way the game is, it also means that the other player can see where you are. But it is much harder for them to track you, I would guess. So there's not, if you're having a kind of multiplayer game where you're sharing the same screen, it's quite hard to make one of the players invisible. So I think this is quite a good way of going about that.
So let's move on to the next set of criteria, which is looking at meaningful play, which includes mechanics, controls, and bugs. So we did, unfortunately, in this case, find a pretty big bug, but it's actually a reasonably complex game with the portals and the pickups and the different multi-input different cars. So unfortunately, it's a bit of a major bug, I think, right? So if we have a serious bug, we're down at a pass, but it's actually a reasonably complex game with that infrequent bug if you pick up enough pickups. So I think we're basically between a satisfactory and a good on that one.
Another thing I noticed a second ago is if you drive into a wall and shoot, only as player 2, interestingly, if you drive into a wall and shoot, it kills you.
Oh, you can kill yourself, but only
player
player
1
2.
cannot, but player 2 can.
So I actually think this might be a bit more of a bug, and I think that might drop them down a little bit into straight up into the satisfactory level. So it's reasonably complex, and there are minor bugs. What about controls? You said that the controls were actually smoother than you were demonstrating to us. Are they a reasonable set of usable controls? Or a reasonable set of smooth controls? So
it's kind of hard to tell without being able to do it against another player.
Sure.
If you go to the tutorial had things you can shoot. The movement is fine. It's some of the tighter gaps in the map are a little bit difficult.
Harder to navigate around. Sure.
Get to, but it's not terrible.
Are they intuitive controls? I think that the targeting might not be intuitive, that with the airstrike, but are the others intuitive?
The movement, the controls for player 1 definitely are.
Sure.
The movement for player 2 are, because I worked that out pretty easily without being told how they work. But the using enter to shoot for player 2 was not the easiest thing.
To me, what I'm hearing here
also,
is that
it turns out it's actually quite hard to hit a moving target.
So I think what I'm hearing here is that
Right.
they're smooth and actually fairly intuitive. I'm maybe somewhere not quite hugely
Have I
intuitive. So
not hit
between
the
good
box
and
5
excellent.
times yet?
So
I think I've broken the tutorial.
Next question. And the mechanics in this case are, so what are the collection of mechanics that we are seeing here? So we are seeing that you can drive around, you can navigate this set of this maze, you can go through a portal, you can shoot at something, you have power-ups that allow you to speed, invisible, airstrike, and I can't remember what the fourth power-up was for.
Oh, the shield.
Oh, shields, that's right. So there are a large set of mechanics, and the question is, do they actually kind of do they interlock in a nice way? So in this case, what we're looking for is a set of consistent mechanics, or are we in a set of complementary mechanics, or are we in a wide set of complementary mechanics? I actually think we are up in a wide set of complementary mechanics on this game.
I think I would probably agree with that. It's the portals in particular. It's difficult to tell how well they would actually integrate with the game without being able to, play against someone else. But the rest of it, I think it all fits pretty well.
Okay.
Come on.
Yeah, it does. It does feel like they've
I've definitely broken this
put them
tutorial.
together. There's nothing that feels like it sticks out as going counterintuitively to the play. So let's talk about now, we're going on to the next set of major criteria, which is fulfilling this brief. And this breaks down into both level design and tutorial. So let's talk about level design first. In this case, we're looking for goals, risks, and rewards, and pacing. So the question becomes, is within the level design that they have, is there a coherent, limited, or clear and coherent set of goals, risks, and rewards? So I think the goal is obviously very clear: kill your enemy. The risk is, oh no, your enemy is going to kill you. And I suppose there's some rewards around, you can choose whether or not to go for a power-up that might then expose you to your enemy's fire, or give you a power-up that helps. I do feel that that we are in a clear and coherent set of risks, of goal, risks, and rewards.
I do think, I definitely think there's some good risk reward stuff. Like, for instance, putting the power-ups right in the middle is, I think, a good idea, because that in theory is also the place where you're most vulnerable. Because you can be hit from any side while you're in there.
Yep.
I'm not certain that the portals down here. I'm not certain about the portals being a good example of the risk reward thing, because in my mind, going down, it's like what would normally be like a kind of dead end one-way street. Would seem like quite a high risk, and so you'd want to reward them with something. And like, the portals essentially turn it into just like a regular corridor.
Sure.
There's not really any risk or any particular reward.
Yep.
So it's not bad, but it feels like they've removed an opportunity to have some really nice risk reward stuff in there.
Yep. Yep. I hear you. And to be honest, I think
Oh my god.
if anything, I actually think that there is a clear, coherent, and well-balanced set of risks, goals, and rewards. But I think what you might be getting to is the pacing is kind of flat in this game, right? So they've only given us this one level, with the portals very clearly placed on either side, and the power-ups right around the center, and so there's no tension over time, right? There's no thought or strategy about kind of over time where I'm going to go here. The pacing is rather flat. If anything, the only tension that's involved is from that other player, but because the board is static within this level, and as you said, they don't necessarily take into account that, oh, well, you could have a corridor to nowhere, but there's this super juicy power-up, but going down that corridor exposes you to something from the other player. Like, that tension isn't there as part of the level.
Yeah.
Yep, go ahead.
Sorry, if I could just very briefly jump back to the information design and control side of things, because there's 2 points I'd forgotten to mention then. Although actually we might have mentioned the controls for the airstrike are both extremely difficult to use and also can very quickly break the game if you just aim away and now no one can see what they're doing. And also if you use this and win, it doesn't tell you that you've won or anything. It just quits.
Ends, yes.
Which isn't very satisfying.
So this could be. I mean, so I think that wins and you're done. I think that's part of this pacing is flat, and I think that also segues a little bit into some of the tutorial here. Let's talk about the tutorial. So the tutorial is we have some options around gradual explanation of gameplay and controls revealed as you play, or some explanation of gameplay and controls, gradual explanation of gameplay and controls somewhat aligned with play. So I think that we're definitely not in aligned with play in the tutorial, because there's no reason for us to shoot things except that they told us to. So it's not integrated as part of your play here, is it? On the other hand, they do not let you progress unless you have done it some little bit. So there is this gradation around, well, shoot this until this thing goes, okay, now you've shot it, now we can expand you to the next. Or you've driven over these black squares enough, you've practiced. I think that this is effectively a passable attempt at a tutorial.
Although, it doesn't work anymore.
Uh-oh.
The last few times I tried to do this, you can't get past this box. So I'm wondering if it's because we've done the tutorial before, and maybe this has broken something. I'm gonna quit and restart and see if the tutorial works again.
Okay.
Because then we can actually see the rest of it again.
Yeah. Uh-oh. Have we found a little bit more bugs?
No, I think I might have accidentally changed the order of the tutorial level. Hey, it worked.
Alright.
I might be misremembering, but I thought it did the explaining portals before it explained how to shoot.
Yeah, I can't remember that one.
It's not as hard to aim with as I remember.
Okay, so we're going to go on to talk about the core dynamic involved in this game. So the other part that we were asking them to do is to have a very clear core dynamic and identify what it is. So for this particular game, so far all of the elements in this game to me say, well, is it destruction or survival?
That's an interesting question.
I would actually say that just by watching you play and kind of imagining a second player, that this is about surviving.
I do kind of get that, particularly of the 3 power-ups, only one of them is about like destroying the other player. You've got the shield, the speed, and the invisibility, which all seem to be about running away and hiding.
Yeah. Whereas only the airstrike is destruction, really.
Yeah.
So,
and also that one is incredibly difficult to use. So that again, it kind of encourages you to not.
Yep. So this crew thought it was going to be destruction, although they did say in order to survive. So you can see there's a little bit muddled in terms of their own thinking here.
Aiming the airstrike also moves you, which is I did not know.
So it's interesting to me. So I mean, in many cases, what we're asking about is, is there a core dynamic that is or is not well supported by the primary mechanics? And in this case, as you just said, Callum, there are a large number of mechanics that kind of feel like they very clearly support survival. And they do actually play together. It's just not the one that they identified. So I think we're going to go with there is a clear core dynamic that is supported by the primary mechanics. And they just got it a little bit wrong in terms of their identification of it.
And again, the portals also, I think, very much.
Yeah, it's about survival,
escape.
Run away.
Yeah. And I remember...
There's a fire drill. I don't think I have to leave. It's just the emergency testing of the fire alarm.
I remember in the labs, although I guess we're going to be getting to the feedback part fairly soon.
There we go. Let's go to feedback. It's a good thing. So, they were told that they should aim to add some depth to the game while keeping it simple. The game is really simple, and they added depth to the game via the power-ups. Yep. So only the airstrike changes the controls. It was hard to aim. So they implemented a lot of things, including those power-ups, based on keep it simple, but with some more depth. The airstrike renders you immovable. So this is something that was probably a little hard to test. We had trouble with that airstrike. So you were a sitting duck if you tried to use it. They added the air trails or the contrails so that even if you're invisible, you kind of still have an idea where you were and they knew where you were. And they wanted to avoid spam shooting, so you get at most 3 shells in quick succession. Interestingly, they say every shot takes a second to recharge, which actually wasn't explained. And in fact, I think in the beginning you kind of clearly identified that as a bug because it didn't seem to be explained.
No, it also does sometimes let you shoot multiple times in a row. So
yeah,
right, I've screwed this.
Yep. So one of the things that they did take into account is they took in some feedback that if the teleporter was able to be moved, there might be a skill ceiling. In fact, we were worried about me playing this game and trying to position a teleporter while avoiding being hit. So they fixed it in that so that you could indeed just use it as a runaway opportunity and try to simplify the game and not have that skill ceiling involved. So they definitely heard that and took it into account. And I do like the portals. And if anything, I would hope that if there was a second level, that the portal would be somewhere strange and that there would be this dead-end corner with maybe a power-up, a really juicy power-up at the bottom of it, and that the portal would end up somewhere else, right?
Yeah.
To allow you to think through how that would be used strategically. So in this case, I think that the feedback was addressed. And I think the changes have been somewhat successful.
So, I remember when we were talking to them about apps, at least I remember when I was talking to them, one of the things we did talk to them about is that we pointed out that there was that kind of conflict between whether or not it was a destruction or a survival game. And when we were talking to them, they did stress that they wanted it to be a destruction game. And so we spoke to them about, like, the mechanics they'd chosen, like needing to think about which ones they wanted to include to try and support that and which ones they might need to change or remove. And on that point, they don't seem to have done anything about that, because pretty much everything that they described at the time that we pointed out as maybe leaning more towards survival, they have kept in. So I don't think their response to the feedback has been entirely successful.
Overwhelmingly successful. Okay. So so what about as somewhat successful? Are we down at somewhat successful, or are we somewhere between somewhat successful and successful?
I would lean towards the somewhat successful end, I think.
All right. I think that concludes our play of this game. Thank you very much, and let's move on to the next game. All right, and on to our second game. This game is called Safe Zone. I hear music.
A little bit too loud.
Drop that down a little bit. All right. Unfortunately, again, this is another two-player game, and because of our COVID restrictions, we are in separate areas. Callum, do your best playing both players.
Okay, so press W or I to start. What if I press both? Oh no, that's...
I like that they've given an audio credit. Very nicely done. All right, WASD, and okay, go. All right, they give you a little, whoa, okay.
Come on,
You're doing really well playing two. Oh, you can move the blocks and you can jump over the blocks. Uh-oh. Okay, and there's a safe zone. Second person just gets exploded. I love it.
What am I meant to do here? Can I, like...
Go.
Oh, you can climb up the wall. Oh. Ah.
What's that? What was that red bullet going there, if I wonder? And what's down below those blocks? Uh-oh. You went too fast. I wanted to explore this. Go slower. So what is this box of, can you get into that box?
Ooh, a double jump now. Can I get a 3 times jump? No. Oh. I can't actually go much slower.
We learned something.
Oh, wait, we've just gone on to the next...
We progressed on, though. Okay.
Wait.
All right. Can you get into that box with the bullet going round and round? No, it doesn't look that way.
So apparently the blue player won the last game for some reason.
But red can get that power up, maybe.
I don't think that's going to help him at that stage.
Oh, there's something. Oh, okay. We've seen something falling and exploding.
No, I'm pressing the wrong keys. Okay. Oh, we have a bomb.
There's a bomb.
How do I use
Who's
the bomb?
got the bomb? They've all got bombs.
Oh no, oh no, oh no. Okay.
Did everybody die there?
I think only the... I think Red just about managed to get out of the way.
I see.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm gonna try to take some slightly different routes this time.
Okay.
See, why does the blue one explode there?
Okay, so this is obviously a game that has an incorporated tutorial level, which I really do enjoy. It looks like there's a series of things you can do. So in this particular level, we're going to learn that you can go, whoa, why did you explode there?
I didn't do anything, but the timer ran out, so I'm assuming that's it.
I see. Okay, so we've learned now there's a timer. We've learned that there are these blocks, that you can move some of the blocks. You can climb walls. Oh, you died. Now here's the question, right? Who really won that game?
Well, the blue player exploded, but I'm not sure.
But did red win, or?
I'm curious. Okay, they're stuck together now. What? Oh, I'm pressing. That's why They weren't stuck together. I was pushing them together. I haven't got used to the two and two controls.
Yep. Okay, so we've got some timing element, which is difficult. What happens if you leave?
Okay, so if the time runs out, I think whoever is furthest behind loses.
Okay.
Or at least they explode. Which I
Right.
assume is the same thing.
Yes. And what happens if leave blue there and get red going?
How do I use the bomb?
Yeah, how do you use the bomb?
Okay, that's how I use the bomb.
How did you do it?
It's you hit one of the button, either E or O, depending on the player, and it drops a little ball that explodes after a while.
Uh-huh.
Which, you know, is about how I would expect a bomb to work, to be fair.
Right. All right, so we're gonna walk through now, and while you keep playing, we're gonna start walking through the marking criteria. Let's see. So first we're going to go through quality, which includes presentation and meaningful play. So first on presentation, audio, graphics, information design. I think it has audio, it has effects and music, I believe.
Yeah.
There are very consistent graphics. I think the biggest question for me comes down to that information design. So we can very clearly see that we're supposed to use WASD and IJKL. We can see that there's a timer that both before we start and that timer of, oh no, your time is kicking down. The 2x jump, we know what power-ups you have. The part where I'm struggling a little bit in information design is kind of the so what, right? So, you know, who won that round? Somebody exploded. Did the other person actually win? Does that mean that they get to go first next? Like, what does that give them if you won the first round? But, you know,
I think,
did it give you a bonus?
Where you've got the giant green wall, and when you cross it, the other player explodes. That's clearer.
Yes.
The timer running out is a bit less so, though.
It is.
No,
And I think even with the exploding through the green wall or with the timer, the question becomes that really is the so what, right? So blue won there. Did blue get a little extra bonus? Did there more points? Yeah, or not? Like, do they get to start the next round, or is it every round is their own thing? So I do feel that there's not a huge problem, but a little bit of some problem. Yeah.
There is some missing reference exceptions, so it might be that is actually explained.
So we should actually note here that no executable was handed in, students.
Oh, that's really sorry. I've just noticed something. When you overtake the other player, the countdown changes color. So it's not a timer for the level, it's a timer for you to overtake the other player before you lose. Now
that I love on the information design. That is very cute.
Unfortunately, they didn't explain that.
No. And in fact, I would almost argue that the timers are such that, so this is really interesting, right? Because some of these levels are so hard that in some way you have to act collaboratively to get to the end of that, to the green zone. Like some of them are so long you couldn't do it with just blue in the lead.
Go, we can do it, yes.
Oh, yes. See, so there you had to act collaboratively, and at the same time, you're, now that it's only here at the end where you're really sprinting to the finish line. That's an interesting, and I'm not sure if it is a helpful play or if it is if it helps or if it hinders that.
But here's the thing, like, if you don't make it to the end, it's only the player who is behind that explodes. So I don't know that it's actually encouraging cooperation.
Yes.
But it's hard to tell because, as you mentioned, they don't have any anything to indicate who has won.
Yes.
And whether someone has lost the round. No, go on. You can make it.
Yep.
Oof.
So I think we're actually kind of getting there into, I think that there's some tension there around meaningful play. But let's talk about that information design. So I think for the most part, it's consistent and effective graphics, it's complementary audio effects and music, and most key information is shown. So we're kind of between satisfactory and good here.
I would say, I think the audio is very good. It's
excellent.
You've got a little sound effect for the jumping. You've got a little bleep for the timer counting down. There's a really satisfying explosion sound when you pick up the power-ups. You have the, it's the Mario coin sound effect, but it's a good sound effect.
That's fine. So I think perhaps we bump them up into complementary and appealing effects and music, which is up in the excellent. And to be honest, I actually really love the graphics. So I actually think they are consistent, effective, and appealing graphics. It's just that there's some tension around the key information that's available, and if anything, it's not so much the while you're playing. In that case, the key information is shown, but it's the so what? It's that meaning of that information that enables you to understand how you should strategize and
I think
play.
It's more of an issue there of tutorialization more than information design itself. Because now that I know what's going on, all of the information is there and it's pretty easy to track. I wasn't sure what it meant at first.
You say that they've actually done somewhere between excellent on the information design and excellent on the audio and graphics and good on the information, which is halfway between good and excellent there.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yep. So now we're going to go up to we are going to go, sorry, I'm going to complete a thought there, to the meaningful play. So mechanics, controls, and bugs. So I haven't seen any major bugs in this.
Neither have I.
Yep. And it is actually fairly complex. Like, there's a lot of moving parts here between the characters that you're moving, as well as the things in the game, the bomb, the bricks, the timer is switching off each way.
That's cool.
How do you feel about the controls? Are they reasonable and smooth, usable controls?
Yeah, I mean, I'm managing to control both of these, I mean, not amazingly, but reasonably well. I've also discovered that you can do like a kind of slam move. When you're up in the air, you can, if you hit S it, you plummet towards the ground very quickly. I'm not sure it's useful, but it is interesting.
Are they intuitive controls?
Yeah. I mean,
all right.
For instance, the wall climbing controls, which are often a thing that people struggle to make work. It's just push into the wall and jump. It's very straightforward. It's very easy to do.
So I'm seeing excellent up in controls and on bugs. So let's talk about the mechanics. So the mechanics they have here is that you can move your I don't know if it's a collaborator or your competitor can move. The bricks can move. The bomb is walking around. You can double jump. You can force yourself to fall quickly. You can. I love that you could actually move the bricks and that there are actually little puzzles later on in deeper levels. Do we think that this is a set of mechanics? Is it a wide set of mechanics? And are they complementary?
I definitely think that it's a complementary set of mechanics. I think they all work together pretty well. Assuming that you're racing each other and not working together, I think it's a good complementary set of mechanics. I don't know if it would go so far as to be wide. I'm not sure exactly like how much you would need for that. Like there is a lot going on, like the double jump and the wall climbing and the bomb and stuff. Will make it. Also, as you mentioned, the movable blocks. There is a fair amount going on. I'm not sure if it would count as.
Yep. So I think to be honest, I think the movable blocks send me over into the wide. Like the fact that there's power-ups in this and there's those movements, and that would have been just a nice complementary set. But I do think the fact that these blocks are movable and you can knock them over to help you get to the next place. And so you can then choose, do you climb a wall or do you move a block and go up the block is a wide set. Okay, so let's move on then to fulfilling the brief.
Yeah. Before we move on, real quick, there is one thing I do want to mention, which is less from a marking point of view, but more just kind of general feedback. So one game this really reminds me of is Speedrunners. It's a very similar kind of style of kind of 2D platformer where you're racing each other and there are power-ups. And I think one thing that, again, assuming that you are actually meant to be racing each other, one thing that I think would be nice if that one of these power-ups was sort of like a catch-up mechanic. Because at the moment you've got the double jump and the bomb.
Yep.
And the double jump, I guess, is sort of that because it makes it easier to traverse gaps. But the bomb, you drop it where you are, and then it stays there. So it's really only useful against people behind you. So having something that you can use to catch up faster would have been really nice to see.
Yes. So let's talk on to fulfilling the brief, where we talk about level design and the tutorial. So in this case, the tutorial is very obviously a part of that level design, where first one is introducing move, and then they start introducing double jumps and bombs and pieces like that. So I think actually I'd like to hit tutorial first. So I think that there's a gradual explanation of gameplay and controls that is aligned with play.
Yeah. Oh no.
So in this case, the question becomes, is it a gradual explanation of controls fully aligned with play and sometimes communicated through level design? I actually think it is. I think we're very clearly in that category.
Yeah. So I think actually there's a fair point. So the first level is just flat, right? But this second level introduces this kind of split level area here.
Yeah.
Which, although it's maybe not explicitly designed to, would, I think, make it easier to see what's happening when you overtake people.
Yeah.
Because you've got these two different lanes, so it's going to be much clearer that, oh, you overtook someone, because you can see more clearly when that's happening, rather than like in the open areas where you kind of roll over each other constantly.
Yeah.
You've got these nice little screens here. Oh no. Okay, maybe the double jump isn't quite high enough.
So looking then at the level design itself, where we're looking for now is kind of rewards, goals, risks, and pacing. So this is one of those ones that the goal is. This is where I think the muddle comes out very, very clearly. That is this a collaborative game or is this a competitive game? Because
when I'm playing it, it's collaborative because I want to.
Yeah, well, you are yourself exactly. Because really, the goals, the risks, and the risks, and the rewards change depending on how you are playing it, right?
Yes.
Because you could play this if you were playing this straight competitively. You would just run as fast ahead as you could, and the only goal would be, who cares about hitting the green zone? It's just to stay ahead because the other person blows up. Versus, is the goal to get to the green zone, in which case you need the other player to play collaboratively. And yeah, so right here, there is a muddle around goals, risks, and rewards. And indeed, because each level starts on their own, everybody's the same again, it doesn't really matter who hit the green zone or who exploded. What is the reward?
So I think you're definitely right that it is definitely not entirely communicated exactly what. It's very heavily implied what the goal is, but it's not actually communicated.
Yeah.
But I think this is a really interesting case because you could make the argument that it does result in a sort of emergent gameplay, where if you don't explicitly tell the player, okay, you need to get to the end, or you just need to make the other player explode, then you could end up in a situation where the different players, they might decide that they just care about who is left alive at the end.
Yeah,
or they might decide,
true.
we actually want to get to the end, and then still have that kind of race just with who actually hits the green zone first.
It's true. And it would basically mean that depending on who's playing, how they decide they're going to do it, right? And if that's the case, if we take that stance, then there are kind of goals and risks and rewards. So even if you're playing collaboratively, if the goal is to get to the green zone collaboratively, the risk is, well, maybe I'm not actually going to be the one that gets there. I get blown up. I still think there's a problem around rewards. So I think and the same thing holds for, playing it evilly, and we're going to just competitively. I mean, so I think that if we take it that you can have an emergent play of have style of play here, the goals and risks are up in the excellent category. But that reward one, I still don't feel is pulled forward. Like there's no so what, right? There's no, you didn't get anything for not exploding. And so I think that one drags it down quite a bit. I mean, if anything, I'm to the point that I think the rewards are kind of down at just the pass level, which would bring this somewhere between a satisfactory and good for goals, risks, and rewards. On the other hand, I do think that there's a nice tension as this. So each level is actually getting harder and harder, and so the tension does rise over time and in a fairly coherent and well-balanced way.
Yeah, it's...
Now, here's something. So if tension rises over time in a coherent and well-balanced pattern linked to variations in gameplay. So, and that's in the prize-worthy category. And so the question suddenly becomes that, are these variations in gameplay, based on whether you play collaboratively or competitively, change the tension enough? I'm not entirely sure it does, but I feel like we might want to eke up a little above excellent on the tension.
I think also the, at least, do your jump. At least as far as the kind of the introduction of new mechanics, like increasing tension, it's not just that, say, oh, this person now has a bomb, so it's more dangerous now. For instance, like the double jump isn't just introduced as kind of, oh, it's the same levels, but now you can jump higher. The actual levels themselves become much taller and more complicated once the double jump is introduced. So that, like, the introduction of that mechanic allows them to kind of increase the difficulty of the levels and also the tension, I think. So I think that's pretty good, the way they've done that. Like here, for instance. Oh, I did mess that up, though.
All right, so now we move on to core dynamics. They feel, well, what do you think? What do you think the core dynamic of this one is?
I mean, I don't know, I got stuck. Right now, for me, it's survival, but I think if I was playing this against someone else, actually, that's a good question. I wouldn't be able to tell if it's a race to the end or a survival, or I guess actually probably chase and evade, because that's kind of a combination of the two.
Given the bombs in there, and you could set the bomb.
Yeah.
And yeah, so they thought it was a race to the end, and I could see elements of survival for sure in this one, but we'll go with race to the end, and then the question becomes: do the elements that they've put in, the mechanics that they've chosen, clearly support that this is a race to the end? So let's see, we can go back to the primary mechanics. The primary mechanics are things like you can move blocks, you can jump, you can double jump. There's a bomb, that one's less of a race to the end. There's the timer flipping. Again, that one's less of a race to the end. So it's interesting to me that the game is very clearly core dynamic that's supported by primary mechanics of a race to the end. But I'm not entirely sure that we're at an integrated set of mechanics on this one.
So I think, by and large, most of the mechanics do very much point to, or at least help with, race to the end. But the fact that you've got this timer that flips when you overtake the other player, I think makes it almost like completely, entirely a chase and evade, because you are constantly trying to catch up to the other player, or if you're in the lead, get away from the other player. Like, just that one choice completely flips it from a race to the end, because you don't need to reach the end. No, you just need to outrun the other player.
5 seconds. Yeah. That's interesting. So possibly we're at an attempt at a core dynamic, but not well supported by primary mechanics.
Potentially. I don't know whether it would count as I think there is a good core dynamic that is well supported. I think they've just misidentified it. So I don't know whether it's the,
Yeah. So on
they
the last
failed
one
to do race to the end, or they've successfully done chase and evade but didn't know it.
Yeah. So on the last one, we very clearly said, we're gonna take their input. Well, as that was nice. They tried. They clearly did this other core dynamic, and they did it well. So in that case, you're right. So if we basically say this is chase and evade, it's a core dynamic that's supported by the primary mechanics. And if anything, I think that's a great place to leave them.
Yeah.
Their feedback was, they said that originally they had a tutorial, and they were going to teach everything in the first level. That basically, and then from the feedback and from some playtesting, good job on playtesting, that the concepts were introduced too quickly, and that some other concepts were introduced too slowly. So they basically started introducing what they thought their core dynamic, that race part, earlier, and that power-ups and wall jumps were moved later, which I think is key. I mean, bringing that core dynamic earlier into the tutorials was exactly right. And the power-ups and all the extra miscellaneous pieces that help but are not core come later. So then they did a whole bunch around simplifying the learning process for first-time players. They particularly around how they present power-ups. They also received feedback about more variation in the rhythm and the flow of the game, which I think they decided. So they said they were going to keep the level short, but this is now where they introduced a countdown timer. And so they think the countdown timer built tension for the player in last place.
I mean, it definitely does.
And it does, but interestingly, by adding this one thing, which they thought would change the rhythm and flow, they flip the core dynamic. And all of a sudden now, like, and I think this is part of where we were having tension in this game. That I mean, if we're very generous and it works that the core dynamic is this thing that we think it is, then it all works. But they arrived at this, and instead of, because they were clearly raced to the end, and they wanted to introduce some tension, some pacing. But by doing this one small change, it changed that core dynamic completely.
I think if this wasn't a 2-player game, but was maybe had 4, even more players, like a lot of racing games do, I think that wouldn't. I still think it would have changed the core dynamic, but I don't think it necessarily would have been chase and evade. But yeah, that if you're eliminating the player in last place, it definitely, that's a very dramatic shift in dynamic, no matter what your initial setup is.
Yeah.
So yeah, it does not seem like they've considered that carefully enough. Although I don't know that that's. I guess that is an attempt at responding to feedback. So.
Yeah. So I think that how about this? I actually think that feedback was addressed. And the changes have been somewhat successful. Because I think that in their approach to doing it, they actually introduced a lot, which I think in this case was pure luck that it didn't go completely awry.
Although the changes they've made to the structure and the pacing of the tutorial and stuff, that was very strange. That's really good.
Absolutely. Okay, and that ends our second game. Thanks so much for playing.